Okay, it looks like we're live finally. And yeah, we're live on Facebook and we're live on YouTube. Okay, awesome. Right, welcome guys. Sorry about that, just a few technical problems at the start. So, for today's live session, what I'm going to try and attempt to do is we're going to use Unison MIDI packs. And the reason I'm doing that is that I'm not a brilliant keyboard player. I understand my music theory. I'm just going to turn this feedback off so I don't echo. So I understand my music theory, but I'm not a brilliant keyboard player. So I understand my chords, understand my intervals, whole notes, half notes, etc., or tones, semitones, or whole notes and half notes as they call them in America. And so what I'm going to do, I recently signed up to the Unison MIDI pack series, and you get some emails on a daily basis or every 2 or 3 days. And what we've got here is this, and we're going to go through this guide from Sepp, and he explains about arrangement, stages, and writing a track in 3 steps in 3 days. And in reality that would be great, but we don't all get that time to actually do that, so just bear with me. I actually want to try and just want to copy this live link if I can. Have I got a live link? No, I haven't. Gavin, could you share the live link with me on my WhatsApp, please, and I can just then share it around on my Facebook, etc., etc. So that'd be great if you could just send me a quick live link to that. I'll just keep an eye out for you here. So yeah, as I said guys, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I start a track, and how I started a track recently just using 2 notes, 2 chords, or a simple chord, and then we're going to go into the MIDI and the Unison MIDI packs. I'm just waiting for Gavin to share me a live link, and I can then share that on Facebook, because for some unknown reason I can't seem to locate this live link. And where are we? Has Gav sent me that through yet? No. Okay, so I'll wait for that live link to come through and I can share that on Facebook. If not, then I'm just not going to bother, because I have gone live on Facebook. And if you do want to get us on Facebook, guys, I'm just going to look at this camera over here. If you do want to see us on Facebook, and what you can do is you can go across to our YouTube channel, to Elite EDM Stars, and you should be able to pick up on the live video there. Okay, so if the camera and the phone does cut off, I do apologise. Until we've got a full streaming platform, we're just using 2 different devices to actually stream. So without further ado, I'm going to get straight into this. So as I said before, I'm going to turn my camera off, and we're going to go back to this, and we're going to get rid of YouTube, bring Ableton across. And then quickly, first of all, I'm going to go through what I did, how to start this track myself. Now, it was quiet, it was late at night, I couldn't pump the music, and I was just playing around with 2 notes in a basic chord, as you can see. So it was the root of C, and it was a C minor, missing out the E to make the major, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones, which would make it into a major. We did that there, but I didn't do that. I went straight into the G. So 7 semitones apart, so a major and then into a minor, and I literally loaded up a simple Sylenth, and we used basic built-in factory presets, because I was still setting this computer up with all the sounds and my sound banks. I do have them now set up in the custom banks, as you can see here, but we started off with a simple ARP, and this sounded like this. Okay, so what I did then, I thought, I can hear a bass line idea. So I created a quick MIDI bass line idea. So taking the same notation again, but I came up with a simple notation of 16 notes. Let me just put on to 16ths. And this was the bass line. So I'll just play you the bass line. So I'm going to take the arpeggiator off, which is what I've done here, and I've taken the swing down off these notes. I keep on forgetting my microphone. So I'm going to play that with the arp. And then what I did, I came to the bass and I put an arpeggiator onto it. So I'm just going to play the bass with the arpeggiator, but no swing. Again, I'll just explain this. So I keep forgetting my microphone. I do apologise, guys. What I did is I put a simple step key on, and it comes as a standard bass, the Walker bass, and then I put a little bit of swing on, about 50%. So I'm just going to back that off and just play it with this kick drum and this pattern. These are not the final kick drums. So what I'm doing there is I'm literally just playing around with the timing as well. So I put a little bit of swing on. Also did the same for the actual pattern as well. I actually put a bit of a swing onto this. So I'm going to play this without the swing, and then with. I know, Gav, it's because I keep forgetting the microphone, mate. I have to keep on muting, and when I mute away, unfortunately the microphone stops. It's getting used to it. Don't forget, this is actually my only second live session I've done, so it's a little bit confusing at times. So hopefully my microphone should be working. If Gavin, can you let me know? Is the microphone working? Seem to be getting a response. So is my mic not working at all? It should be working, Gav. Let's have a look in OBS. Am I getting a signal in OBS? Yes. Microphone should be working, but I have to keep going down, see if you want to hear me really loudly. It's very sensitive. and I've got it up as full as I can, and I can't get any more out of it. Can you still hear me? Can you hear me okay? Right, I might just scrap this and start again because it's gone completely horribly wrong today. So I'm going to carry on unless you say yes or no. So that's just a simple idea. That's how I come up with my ideas, and I'm also working in this section here in clip mode and not in the traditional arrangement mode. And there is a reason for that, because I do sometimes like to start working in clips so I can treat it like a bit of a DJ session, and I can trigger clips. Okay, so I'm going to move on from this. I'm just waiting for confirmation from Gavin that the microphone is working. So, fingers crossed, you can hear me out there. If not, it's a failure. So, as I said, what I did recently is I signed up to the Unison MIDI sounds, and we're going to follow through this guide. Cheers, Gav. Thank you, mate. So we're going to follow through this guide, and it says here, first of all, stage 1, arrangement. So if I can just bear with me a second, and we're going to go to some documents, and we're going to go through this little document here, and it's disappeared. That's what I want. Okay, so if I just open that, so for this session what we're going to do is we're going to walk through this content, and we're going to cover, and this won't resize the way I want it to. Okay, so we're going to cover today introduction to the Unison MIDI files, setting up an Ableton Live template for your arrangement, creating a track arrangement map, importing our first chords or MIDI files. We're going to use some silent or some synth presets to establish an idea, and we're going to add the basic drums for reference. So in part 2, that will be hopefully tomorrow or Wednesday, and we will do that, and then in part 3 we will go into the hopefully the mix and sort of master stage, maybe the mix, maybe mastering in part 4. So the aim is that we're going to do a couple of live sessions, and we're going to just work through, and we're going to drag these Unison MIDI files in. And just quickly on this, so it talks about the arrangements. When you sign up to Unison MIDI, you get these emails coming through from Sep, and he gives you his tips and his guides on getting started. So for a productive session, they say it's about quality over quantity. Now when you first start making music, yes, quality is important, but also quantity. The amount of tracks that you keep and ideas that you make is very important to progress your production skills, and to basically find your sound, develop your sound. So the aim is, don't worry about the quality at this stage, worry about the quantity. So what I do is I make 5 tracks, and I take the best of those 5 tracks, I scrap the rest, and I take the best of those 5 tracks and I make another 5 tracks. And just my Facebook crowd, what I do is I also then make another 5 tracks and another 5 tracks, and I just pick the best track out of each one till I've got 5 good tracks, and I'm happy with. and then those are the tracks that I literally focus on mixing down and then sending off to a mastering plant, or I master them myself. So for this, without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to come into here, into Ableton Live. I'm going to change this over, so I will go quiet for a second until I change over to a blank template. Okay, do we have sound? Yeah, do we have some sound back? Do we have sound? Okay, for some unknown reason that killed my sound. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to scrap this and we're going to start again. Right, okay, we're back. We're back. Don't know what happened then, guys. I just changed over, and for some unknown reason, OBS didn't like the fact that I'd switched over, and it killed all my drivers and killed my microphone. So what we're going to do, we're going to start from scratch. I had got a basic template set up, but we'll start from scratch. Okay, so do we have anybody on live? I doubt it. Let's have a look. Let's quickly look. Do we have anybody live? Oh, we got 2 people watching. Ah, okay, Gav, right. I'm going to leave this over the side here so I can actually physically see what's going on a little bit. Okay, so coming back, the first thing we're going to do, as I said, is we're going to, where's my notes? Not that one. I seem to have lost everything there. Here we go. So first of all, we're going to introduce, obviously I've introduced the Unison MIDI files. We're going to set up a Ableton Live template and create a track arrangement map. This is so that we can get some ideas down. So first of all, I'm just going to literally plot out very, very quickly the first few sections, and I want to create some track markers, and it won't let me. Everything is not working. I don't know why. Here we go. Add a locator. So we're going to go intro, and then on the next 8 bars we're going to go add a locator and go kick intro, and on the next 8 bass intro, and I'm only going to do half the arrangement for this session. I will continue to do that later once I've finished. I just wish this would, there we go, and that goes to rhythm. So we want a rhythm build, and then we're going to go to our first sort of mini break. So break 1, and then let's just have a look. That's 8 bar sessions, so that's 8 bars, that's 8 bars, 16 bars, another 16, and we're going to go into add a locator again, and we're going to go drop 1. So, and we'll add a quick other one in, add a locator, another 16 bars, and that will be, there we go, mini, I'm going to do a mini break maybe. So what I'm trying to establish here is just a quick arrangement, okay, in 8 bar chunks. I'm going to come back to 1 bar sections on your quantize by right clicking on the screen there, and it gives you your adaptive grid. So we can obviously go into wide, wider, medium. If we go into these, we can go into very, 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 very fine quantization, but for this we need to just stay on 1 bar. So what I'm going to do is drag in some MIDI files from the Unison MIDI pack. So in my browser here, I've got my sample packs and also my MIDI files. So if we come to Unison MIDI, Unison chord pack, I've got the melody pack as well, but we're just going to focus on the chords for now. And I'm going to pick probably a G minor. I usually go around and work in G minor, A minor, A flat minor for house music, dance music. That's the key I tend to sort of stay around in, sometimes in F if I'm doing progressive house, but we'll stick in this. So we've got some triads and we've all got some progressions. Now with the triads we can just grab some of these and we can start dragging them in different arrangements. Just 1 bar loops, so we could drag that in. Do I want to import the tempo and the time signature? Yeah, why not? So for this, it's 125 BPM. Now, we just look inside that a second, and we can see it's just 1 set of notes. Now we can start to build our own sequence here by just literally dragging some of these sections or these MIDI note sections here. Drag in another one, and that looks exactly the same, so we'll just take that away. So hang on, we'll drag another one there, and that's the whole MIDI note, as you can see. That's the L progression, but we can start changing this around. So what they've done is they take a progression here and they chop it up for you so that you can arrange it yourself and literally go in and start arranging it. You could do it yourself. You could start clicking on there and you could right click and split the sections, but it's a little bit time consuming. So for that we could just drag this and into progressions, triads. We could start dragging that section into there, and we could drag another one, another progression, and this time I'm not going to import. Okay, the only trouble is we can't actually see. We've got to go into each section to look at them, and we can rearrange them, change them around till we find a pattern that works. And then when you're happy with that pattern, we just select all the notes, and we can consolidate by right clicking on the MIDI pattern, and then you can actually physically see the chord that you've created. Okay, so again, if you're not happy, we could just switch them around and so on and so forth. Consolidate, and you can see we've got a different arrangement. So for this, what we're going to do, just to get moving very quickly, I'm going to come back into the progressions, and rather than just using the A minor, we're going to go into the progressions pad. We've got diatonic triads, minor progressions, so we can drag in one of these. I'm not going to drag the this time, again, the tempo and the time signature. I just want the actual pad. Okay, so my next step, what I would do, I wouldn't start my intro here. What I like to do is I like to create an 8-bar loop and then another 8-bar loop, and I like that sort of before the drop, and I like it in the rhythm build. So I like the rhythm build or the bass intro. So we're going to work on the rhythm build. We're going to loop around that rhythm build. We're going to duplicate that again, so we've got a 16-bar loop. And the reason I do this, I like to rebuild my intros, and I like to strip everything back down. I like to work and find all of the energy in the track first. And by doing that, so having all your energy, you get to hear what it's like coming up to your break and up to your drop. So you can work on your mini break, you can work on your drop section, and then we can sort of start to filter back the intro and the outro. And you may want to strip elements back, for example. So what we're going to do is going to find a synth for this. We're going to go into Silent. I've only got Silent and on at the moment, and Saurus. So we're going to go with my favourite synth. I like to stick with just one or two synths, and the reason for that is because I think it's important to actually learn your synthesizer inside out, rather than having lots of sounds, lots of plugins, and you don't know how they work. And I spent years doing that, installing the latest VST through the Hydrogen H2O try before you buy bundles on all the crack software. We don't use crack software. You can see this is licensed to myself. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start off with a bank. We're going to come into my custom banks. Now, if you're not familiar on how to load your custom banks into Silent, you literally put them in a folder where you want them, and you just go into your customs folder, choose your location, and all of your preset sounds will be available for you to use very, very quickly. So for example, let's go to my 2020 packs, leads and chords. Let's see what we've got here. So I'm just going to go back into one loop. Okay, that didn't loop for me for some reason. There we go. So you could start playing around with an arpeggiator. I'm not going to do that in this case. We're just going to start try and find a nice sound. I do like this basic super saw. It gives me an indication of, you know, how it's going to sound if I start to try and make a wobble on the sound and start filtering it and creating womp kind of dead mouse sort of sounds. So to give it a bit of rhythm and life, we're just going to throw in a quick kick drum in there, quick house sample, and we'll go into my 2020 loops, and let's go into my deep house pack and see what we've got. See, usually how I will start a track is I'll go in with a bass MIDI, I'll use a sample pack or something, and I'll start with one that maybe a construction kit, or I'll start with a loop and a bass loop. So in this case, I'm just going to look for some samples. These are song starters, I don't want those. I just want some simple drums. In fact, let's go to my straight into my house packs, because I know where I've got something I just want to start with. I always go to a go-to loop when I'm making sort of a deep house track and a future house sort of style track. And we've got so I'm just going to drag this loop in just to get a vibe. It's not going to be a final loop, it's just to give me some rhythm to work with. Quickly duplicate this. I always try and find a couple of layers that will work together. It's such a pain with this microphone. That's nice, very organy kind of sound, and that's what I'm kind of looking for, so we'll stick with that, and then I'm going to reduplicate that. So I'm going to now find another sound for this. So we just play this sound, just going to mute these off again so we keep soloing and losing everything. and I'm just going to cycle around and see if I can find another sound for this, and then we'll actually move on to try and get in the bass pattern in there as well very quickly. So I've got a full loop. We'll add some effects in there. Like I said, I'm trying to build a loop with energy in it, and I create an 8-bar loop, and then I've got my mini drop, and I can start to sort of throw things in there. And once I'm happy with that, I can then sort of start to go back to the beginning of the track and start building my intros and other things there. So I'm just going to duplicate that across. I'm going to copy that across so we've got a fuller pattern. Okay, so this is probably a little bit more advanced for what I actually wanted to do for this particular session, but I'm going to try and create as much energy as I can in the track, so that when I come away from it, I can start arranging. And how I would start to arrange this is I would literally, the intro, I would drag it back to the start, the whole section, I would copy it all across, I'd copy loads of sections across, and then I would start breaking it all down. So we may not have these down like this. So we may not have that until about there. And then what I would do is I would start to automate. So let's just turn my automation lanes on, and we'll start to filter these up. In fact, and again, this is only very basic. I'm just trying to give you a quick introduction into this. So what I would do, would start with this. Actually, I don't like the order of this chord. I actually think that last note should be at the start, really. But for this tutorial, you know, it's just trying to show you how to get started really in a track. So what I would start to do then, as you can see, I'm just trying to put a little bit of automation to create a little bit of movement and feel. So what we're going to do is going to work on this rhythm build and this section here. We're going to start putting a kick drum in. And normally I would use a Nicky Romero kick, but in this case we're just going to use a quick sample. Let's see what we've got again. Let's just come to my 2021 sample packs. See if we can find. See, we've got in these song starters. We have some somewhere. Should have some kits. No, just bass shots. For some unknown reason, I cannot seem to find any loops. That will do for now. It's in the key of A minor, so that will do perfectly. So we're just going to throw this kick loop in, drag it in quickly. Actually going to do here, I'm going to work on this from this section here. We're going to create a quick bass in a second as well. So to create the bass, what I would do, I would duplicate this down. I'm just going to create this, in this case I'm just going to create a new, in fact no, we'll just duplicate, and then we can drop that. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to literally strip out all of this and then create a bass pattern to go along with it. So we could play these just sustained notes. And that might be great for when we come to the break later. So what I'm going to do is recolor this. And when we've got our break, and drop here. And just get rid of all that. I'm still not used to Ableton Lives. You have to select the top section of the note now to get rid and delete. So just move this down. Okay, so that's, I do like the sustained bass here. So what I'm going to do is just leave that there. Duplicate that and then just bring this back, and we're going to try and create something that will fit in with this. We're going to get rid of that there, that there, that. Right, sorry guys, I forgot my mic again then. It's just a habit I've got to get into using when I solo a track. I need to solo my mic. So what I've done is I've literally just copied this pattern down, and then I've got rid of all the notes, and we're just going to play this and see what it sounds like. Again, sorry, so what I was saying there is that you don't always have to get rid of this patch. It might sound perfect as a bass line, and the only way to find out is to throw a kick drum in there. So we're going to listen to just this and the bass together. If not, we'll try and find a separate bass sound for it. But sometimes just playing a chord sound, for example, and playing it right in the low end octaves from anywhere from C1 to C2 can help. to create a bass. And again, let's just see what it sounds like. If not, then we'll find a bass patch. So this time I will do my mic, kick and the bass. Now there's just a little bit of a clash with the kick drums here on this, because this is playing a kick pattern as well. So let me just take that off. So what I'm going to do is slowly, quickly roll off just some of the low end from this kick drum. Where's the EQ? I just want my basic EQs. Where have you gone? What's this channel EQ? That's not the one I want. Where has the old EQ gone? I'll tell you what we'll do quickly until I can find that EQ. Ah, EQ8, that's what I was looking for. So EQ8, what I'm just going to do is roll off this little bit of low here. So we want it up to about here. So I'm going to apply a low pass filter. I should say a high pass filter in this case. We're just going to take it up to there. And then I can introduce the kick drum. And I'm just going to take a look at the mixer. I'm just going to have a quick look at the mix. So I've done that by switching over in the tab key, and I like to set a few levels. I know we're not going into mixing and mastering, but I just like to set a few quick levels just to get a decent arrangement. So I'm going to start with my kick drum at about -7, -6 will do. Bring the loop down. Bear in mind there's nothing on the master out, it's just purely raw. I do like to work with a master chain on the outputs just to give me an indication of how it's going to sound when it's being compressed and limited, because when it goes onto radio it gets compressed and limited 2 or 3 times over. Okay, so from that, quick balance level check. I'm going to bring the bass down. I'm going to rename this to bass and rename that to eighth notes, and then we'll rename that quickly to chords. Okay, so what I'm doing again, I'm bringing the bass down. There's no compression on this, it's going to sound quiet, so we'll start bringing a little bit of a compression in, but that's usually when we come to the mixing stage. I tend to do it as I go along because I work quite fast. My ears are tuned to it. I've been doing this for a very long time, so my ears are tuned. But again, when I'm first starting out, I do start very, very basic. And the reason I'm doing this is so I can give myself on the mixer some headroom here, because there's no compression on. And what I'm aiming to do is try and get the mix round about -6 decibels overall. Bear in mind there's no EQ, there's nothing on there, nothing to make the sound stand out. There's no mid-sideband EQs, there's nothing to make the high-end frequencies stick out. It's literally as raw as we possibly can. apart from this, that's the only EQ I've done there, just to give the low end separation from the rhythm. Do on the kick drum, I'm going to put a utility plugin to make it into mono, and also the same with the bass. So if we come down to utility, we're going to drag that onto there, and also the same again, and we're going to bring these down into mono by clicking the mono button. The bass again in mono, and the reason we want them in mono is purely because when you go into a nightclub system, and that would be great under the circumstances to actually be in a nightclub right now, but what we're actually going to do is, the reason for this is because in a club sound system, the speakers are usually dotted around the room, and if you have your sounds in stereo and everything in stereo, like your kick drums, your claps, your vocals, you won't get the impact. They won't come through the mixes because bass and kick drums, they have long waveforms, and they create also standing waves in a studio environment. So you know, that's why I've acoustically treated the room, but that's for another lecture. So this is to allow the sounds that if they're on a just a mono sound system, so if you don't have a stereo sound system and you just listen to a little cheap stereo or a mobile phone that's only got one speaker, you want the kick drums to cut through the mix, you want the snares to cut through the mix, the claps and the vocals. So we tend to, when we record vocals, we tend to record them in mono, and we add effects in stereo afterwards, and that's how it's kind of done. So again, just making sure, even though I've activated the mono button, I'm just making sure that the mix is down to 0 and it is definitely in mono. And the same again with the kick drum. Now, the beauty of the utility plugin, it allows us to control the gain again. So if we haven't got quite enough control here and here, we can sort of reboost again here, and it adds a little bit of extra gain output on the mix. But obviously, again, do be careful. You know, it's not about clipping the sound and make it as loud as possible. The trick here is to actually make headroom in the track, and the more headroom you have in your track, the better chance you've got of mixing and going to be sounding right. So what I'm going to do on next is I'm quickly going to move on to make this 16-bar loop. So what we got? Yeah, let's move that bass across. And I'm going to look for some effects, some whooshes and anything else that we can use to just add a little bit of body in there, maybe some vocals. Let's have a look what we've got. So what I tend to do, if I want to find some samples quickly, I know the key of my track, I literally go into my browser and I just type in the key and I go A minor, and we see what it brings up. And what this will do is actually separate the sounds. Okay, I like that. Let's see what this does. Ableton, you are being gay today. like that. So that's going straight away. Bye. Yeah, it's just throwing music loops up at the moment, unfortunately, and it's not what I'm looking for. So we're going to come away from the word minor. I'm just going A. And so I tend to do a sharp or a flat, so let's do A, B. And see what we get from that. Now I like some of these as well. So what I'm going to try and do here before I find some effects, sometimes you do get sort of sidetracked, and that's natural. Let it go. If it happens, just let it flow. So I'm going to duplicate this. I'm just going to try something. So all I'm going to do here is I'm trying a different bass sound using a sample. And to do this, I'm literally just going to drag it on top of silent. And it brings up the sample. Now you can hear that's too low. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this. I'm going to consolidate this. I'm going to bring all of the notes, selecting Control or Command A. I'm going to bring them up and pressing Shift and the arrow key up. Where's it going? Okay, so try that again. We're going to go up an octave. I actually like that better than this bass, so what we're going to do for now is we're going to kill this bass and we'll stick with this one. But it may not work, and that's the thing. So it may not actually work with the sound of the other track. So be very, very careful when you start to do that, because you can end up going in one direction and another direction. I can't hear this very loudly at the moment, so I'm just going to boost this a little fraction. So what we could do is try the next note. And again, not too sure on that, so try another one. No, it's too electro-y, so we are going to literally get rid of that and go back to the original one, because I do prefer this and it does seem to fit better. So yeah, as I was saying, you know, if you do like this, leave your comments and I will try and answer your questions as much as I can. You can smash the like and subscribe button. It's up to you. I will leave that in your choice. But what I am going to do is I'm going to quickly duplicate this. Just so I've got a backup, and we'll see if we can find a different sound. Okay, so you can hear that's very, very quiet. So again, I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to duplicate those, consolidate them, and I'm going to bring the notes up. Ableton can get very fiddly at times. So shift and arrow up 1 octave. It's very quiet. I'm just going to put a little bit of compression on there. Take my AB off. So we're going to start adding some effects. I'm going to put that there, impact. Bring in a reverse. Bring in a snap. All I'm doing is literally grabbing sounds in the same sort of key. And we'll drag that nice little loop in as well. So that's where I was on about the rhythm build. So what I want to do, we're going to drag this bass back here. We're going to then duplicate that across. I'm going to put that right at the top so I don't get confused. And I'm going to bring those rhythms down all together, and I'm going to just quickly group those rhythm tracks here and put them into a group. So select all of them and group if I press the right key. So we're going to group the tracks. Oh, I've got X drums, well that'll do. Okay, so kick and then my drum tracks. Put a little bit of compression on the drums. Again, it's not a mixing part, it's just I tend to do this as I go along. I like to sort of get my elements glued together, my drums glued together. I'll try and make them all sound cohesive. So I do that by backing them off in the mix, and then I add a bit of a glue compressor and also a basic compressor as well at the front, and also EQ, and I'm doing this on the group track. So a little bit of EQ on here again as well. to do is get a little bit of gain reduction. It's not about sort of squashing it. And then what I do with this, I'm just going to switch this. I mean, I could do some scratch, and but I tend to sort of start with a full parallel, and I'm trying to just parallel compress, or what's known as the old new NYC compression, or New York compression. So you can see how that's brought them out in the mix straight away, so you may have to then pull them back even more. So you can see we're coming right down in our gain structures. So it's not about having them very high. Pull them back in the mix, bring them up into the mix with your EQs. So spiking them out a little bit, boosting on certain frequencies maybe. I also like to roll off my drums just on the last top ends of the frequencies. And then if they're still too loud, I can just back them off altogether with a little bit of gain control. Okay, so we're going to go for some effects and see what we can get. So again, instead of sort of trawling through your samples, spending hours looking for the right sample, losing time, it's about keeping it flowing, keeping it going. So what we're going to do is type in down or rise. So we'll type in rise and see what it throws me up. So we've got all sorts of stuff here. No. And we're going to again go in A, B, rise. So at least we sort of stick within the key. Unfortunately, my samples and my favourite sample pack won't let me access because it's corrupt on my hard drive. So I'm going to have to try and download that from Ableton again. See what else we've got. It's a shame that is. Let's type in effect. Can't spell today. Again, yeah, it's just thrown up my one sound pack and it won't let me access them. So I'm going to do this for quickness. Let's go into Vengeance Sounds if there's anything in there. Effects loops 1, effects loops 2, that might help. No, it won't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a quick white noise riser, and we'll do that by inserting the MIDI track, and I'm going to come to Silence,